text that and see that works. Like you can work on here, but not. It has a really hard to have actually on the laptop. Oh, okay. But without something, got something. I'll put it further towards the back. Like just in the middle. Where's the audio come out? Okay. It's pretty loud. Oh, it's like throughout the whole. Okay. Yeah. So I think
Testing.
doesn't reach very far though. Because they're not wireless. It's pretty long though. And there's two. So there's one more.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Feel free to keep eating, but I'm going to go through a little bit of logistics and overview for today, and then we'll get into the listening part where I stop talking and then we hear from all of you. So, hi everyone, and welcome to the August 2023 in-person listening session for the California Truth and Healing Council. We have just this listening session this week. And we have a virtual listening session August 23rd. So if there's anything that you didn't feel like saying today that you'd like to say at a later time, please feel free to join us virtually, or you can come to any of our other meetings or listening sessions. We are also planning on having an actual full quarterly meeting here in the next year or so. So if there's anything that you think would be worth highlighting in that space, would love to hear from you as well. My name is Christina Snider-Ashtari, and I'm a member of the Dry Creek Rancheria Band of Como Indians and the Tribal Affairs Secretary for Governor Gavin Newsom. I'm now going to briefly walk through today's logistics. First, we are recording this listening session. You can see there is the GoPro there. If at any point you don't want us to record, please let me know and I'll stop the recording. Or you can tell us to edit it out and we'll edit it out. Recordings, when they're available, are posted to our YouTube and our website at tribalaffairs.ca.gov/CTHC. For those interested in following the council, ongoing updates, including listening session recordings and the listening session summary documents, are available at the California Truth and Healing Council updates blog at catruthandhealing.com. You can also get updates for events by following the Governor's Office of Tribal Affairs on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Additional details, including meeting dates, agendas, and background information, are available at tribalaffairs.ca.gov/CTHC. My script is for virtual, so I'm just going to wing it at this point. Basically, at the front, we have the principles for respectful engagement. And so if you'd like to take a look at those, they're a really good resource. We just want to make sure that we're creating a space where everybody feels seen, heard, and that we're talking to each other in a respectful way. That doesn't mean you can't say things that are contentious or problematic, but we want that to be in a space where you're expressing your experience or your feelings, but not directing it directly at people or at tribes or at circumstances. And so we just, again, want to urge you to create a safe space. If you start to feel any feelings that are making you angry or reactive, or something doesn't sit right, please feel free to get up, grab one of us, and we can talk you through it, and then kind of figure out what's going on there and help you process that as well. Before we get started, I'd like to have Loretta introduce herself too.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Loretta Miranda. I'm a descendant of the Morongo Band of Mission Indians, and thank you, Courtney. So thank you all for coming out tonight. We really appreciate the hospitality and just the opportunity to be here. I currently serve as Deputy Tribal Affairs Secretary for the Governor's Office of Tribal Affairs, and that's about it. Oh yes, so I wear a couple hats. I will be taking some photos today, and so if you do not want us to use your photo or do not want it to be posted on social media, please let me know. I generally take a lot of pictures during the intros, like while everyone is talking, and so you'll hear a lot of clicking, but I'm an amateur, so I just take a lot of pictures and hopefully one of them will come out really good. So just let me know if you're uncomfortable with that or don't want to share your photo as part of this process.
Great. And so before I go around, and typically we'll have everybody introduce themselves, and we'll start with our Truth and Healing Council member who is here today. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what the Truth and Healing Council is, just so that everybody knows what we're doing here, what are the expectations, why are you here, what are we hoping to hear from you. And really the Truth and Healing Council is a council created by the state to listen to tribal communities and understand really what are your needs, what are your priorities, what is your history here that the state is accountable for and should be held responsible for. So just for some context, in 2019, the governor issued an apology for the genocide and state-sanctioned actions against California Native people. And along with that apology, he created a Truth and Healing Council to basically say, yes, we know an apology is not enough, but also we know that our version of history isn't the entire version of history, and that Native people have experiences that have never been reflected in the histories that we tell our people in California since kind of the inception of the state. There are a huge diversity of Native people here, a huge diversity of Native experiences, and we know that everybody's experience up to this point has been different, that people have survived differently, that people have evolved differently, that a lot of the structures that exist right now that are challenging for Native people were started at the origins of the state. So basically what he was saying, he was doing with creating the Truth and Healing Council is, I'd like to take a few years to understand from tribal communities what it is that are the biggest issues that happen in their histories. So for example, did Tribe X get relocated 100 miles away to Tribe Y's land, and now there's real issues in accessing their ancestral homelands, buying their ancestral homelands, and why should they have to buy it, like the whole thing. So really understanding from each perspective, what are those needs, what are those issues, and how can the state in modern times address some of that and help disentangle it. Where there are federal actions that have been harmful, where has the state been complicit in that space, or also where is the state feeling like it's limited because federal action is needed to be able to address real issues now? So what that means is that he initiated this process of a few years of really listening and understanding and learning from tribal people, Native people throughout the state. What is it that you'd like to see reflected as your history in kind of the bigger story of California? And what is it that you are struggling with now that is connected to that history? Is it, I can't learn my own language in my school and I should have a right to that? Is it, I can't live in my ancestral homelands because I'm priced out of it, or because, my tribe doesn't have land, or because of a bunch of different things? Or I can live in my ancestral homelands, but it means that I'm gonna have to make some sacrifices because there's not enough services, there's not enough, X, Y, and Z. So really what this process is seeking to understand is that history, the things that need to be done from your perspective, so that we can then have a report that outlines that holistically, and then outlines those calls to action that need to happen, similar to other reconciliation processes, in order to move forward and start disentangling this. It doesn't mean that the report and the recommendations are going to be the be-all and end-all and solve everything in California Indian country. It took, hundreds of years to get to this point. It's going to take a long time to disentangle it and make everyone feel whole, but it is a start, and it's a start to get the state moving in the right direction. Anything else I should add? Sure. The report itself is due in 2025. As part of the report, we have subcommittees that are looking at it through different lenses. So there are lenses for elders, there's a youth council. We encourage everybody to join those. But we also have lenses for things like communities with disabilities, urban communities, not veterans. We should have done that too.
Elders,
education, status and identity. And so really what these subcommittees are looking at is, we know there's all these issues, but also there's specifically challenging issues for certain communities because of whatever it is. So for status and identity, for example, if I have been disenrolled and I don't have a status as a federally recognized member of a tribe, am I able to go do gathering in my ancestral homelands? Things like that. In addition to the subcommittees, there are issue areas under examination. And so those are things like the status and needs of education in Indian country, land and resources, which you want to call something else because resources is kind of a gross capitalist word, but criminal justice, things like that. So really it's focusing on issue areas and then applying those lenses as well. We envision it being regionally specific too. So this region will have a very specific history that is different from, for example, Pomo country or Luiseno country or Cahuilla country. And anything else? And we meet on a quarterly basis. Those are over a couple of days, and they cover issues specific to the region. So for example, on the North Coast, we talked a little bit about education. We talked a little bit about the use of cultural burns, but also catastrophic wildfire and how we need to be addressing that better, and that it's linked in early state laws prohibiting certain cultural burning practices. In other areas of the state, we've talked about ICWA because that was important at the time. We've also had meetings at the boarding schools at Sherman Indian and at Stewart Indian School, and we'll likely have one at Chemawa and Fort Bidwell. And our next quarterly meeting is going to be a little bit in the future in December in San Diego, and we will be examining issues specific to those tribes as well. Anything else? Okay, sorry everyone, I'm winging it today. So what this is today is a listening session, and what listening sessions are an opportunity for the community itself to just let us know what you think is important in this process. Share with us anything that's on your heart. If there's anything in your history that you want to add to the record here, if there's anything you recommend that the council do. The council itself is led by a governing body. Carmen Lucas, who is here, who will introduce herself in a minute, and hopefully introduce her puppy, is one of our governing council members, but we have 12 throughout the state with 4 alternates. They are not representative, but they are meant to be a person with diverse life experience and background to be able to make decisions that will hopefully account for those different experiences. So every descendant of the genocide is technically a member of this process, with the governing council kind of steering that ship in the way it needs to go. So today, the listening session, again, is an opportunity to kind of share your thoughts, what you think the council needs to be doing, whether there's any specific history here, whether there's any specific initiatives that you're undertaking that you think that the council could model or should have as part of its recommendations. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Councilmember Lucas to introduce herself, and then typically what we'll do is we'll have everybody introduce themselves, and if they have anything to share at this point, you can go ahead and share it, and we'll go from there.
And we'll take this as far as it'll go, but you may need to.
I want to come up here because I like to look at everybody, so I just am Carmen Lucas. I'm a Paiute Indian from Laguna Mountains in San Diego, California. I'm humbled to be a council member here. One of the things I really like to see is all the gray hairs here, and I want you, if you haven't already, please start writing your story. I know some of you say, oh, it's not interesting, I don't want to. You must do it. You must do it for those who have yet to be born yet. And we must have your true story on record. So I'm asking you personally, please, if you've not recorded your story either by writing or by videotape, please do it. If you have a young folk at home who can help you out with that, don't be bashful. Tell them they have to help you. Outside of that, I came kind of in my clothes that I wear every day because I live on my ancestral land. I'm not part of civilization. Is that good, bad, or indifferent? It has its advantages and it has its disadvantages. One of the disadvantages is I'm not connected to the computer. So you young folks, when I talk to you, I know who's been raised by Nintendo. You talk too fast. So I want you to remember that when you're talking to old folks, slow down. We want to hear what you have to say. I wore this t-shirt because I had another one that was white and I figured it was going to be really hot up here, and it was decolonized. I don't really know what that means except that it's a wordy dirt, so I just figured I'd wear it. And of course I spilled coffee on it, so I had to change. And I wanted you to see the back of this shirt. This is one of the last old medicine men, and don't ask me to say his name because I can't pronounce it. But he was from Mesa Grande, one of the reservations in San Diego. He was the last eagle dancer. So I bring that to the surface here because I'm going to be 88 in about 3 weeks. You know, life goes on and we all get compromised at the end of that road. So I don't have any illusions, you know, I may live another 10 years, I may not. But I'm very conscious of the fact that we've lost our medicine people. But I know that someplace hiding in the woods here, we still have authentic medicine people. So I'm asking if you know of any of those, and if they're here, please start showing yourselves. I think the community needs you. So that's my little spiel today. I'm happy to be here. More importantly, I want to hear what you have to say. So please open up and let us hear what you have to say. Thank you.
And Carmen has also brought her 3-month-old puppy.
As a warrior, she's going to be my companion. She doesn't know it yet.
So I encourage everyone to go meet the puppy at some point.
And thank you, Chairwoman, for allowing her.
Thank you.
So something that Councilmember Lucas mentioned was getting your stories down. We have basically an iPad recording lending library, so if anybody would like to do oral histories, we have that ability. Just let us know. We can also come down and do that with you if you're more comfortable with that. But what we think is probably the best course is if folks that have already pre-existing relationships with their elders and people within their community want to conduct those interviews. That's probably more comfortable for the elders and others. So we can give you a list of questions, we can give you all the equipment, and you can keep those interviews if you don't want to submit them to the state because they would be public records at that point. You know, and if you just wanted to have that within your tribe for posterity and for future and for teaching, you could do that. You could send us whatever you feel like sending through this process so that you can highlight your elders, highlight your people, highlight your languages in the way that you want to highlight them, and then keep anything that you consider proprietary so that we don't have it and no one else has it either, but you have it. Or you can submit the entire thing if that's what you'd like to do. And so again, we do have an oral history project that is aligned with this, just so that we have Native people telling Native stories in their own words. So let us know if you want to take advantage of that as well. So what we'll do at this time is have everybody go around the room, introduce yourself, let us know kind of where you're from, why you're here. Also, if you brought anything that you'd like to put on the record, feel free to share that at this time. So we can start with Chairwoman.
Anihu again, for those of you who joined after I introduced myself. I'm Meryl Picard. I'm the tribal chairwoman for the Bishop Paiute tribe. Thank you guys for joining us and traveling in from wherever you did and for participating this evening because it's really important and we're very grateful that we could host this event.
Hello everyone, my name is Val Goodwin, tribal elder, Bishop Paiute tribe. Glad to be here. I wasn't sure what this was about or involving, but I'm here to learn, and so far I like what I hear. Okay.
Hello everyone, Noah Williams, Bishop Paiute tribal member and employee for the Big Pine Paiute tribe of the Owens Valley. Good to be here. Just here to listen and hopefully give back some feedback too as well. So good to be here.
I don't know what we're doing. Some people may need to come this way.
Hi, my name is Courtney Coyle. I'm an attorney in private practice in San Diego, and I work with tribes throughout the state protecting their burial grounds and cultural practices. I'm here because I'm also Carmen Lucas's attorney and friend and driver and logistics person and whatever else, dog handler. And so I've been following Carmen to all the meetings that she's done throughout the state, and it's been a privilege to do that and a privilege to drive up here today, your beautiful country. I will definitely be back again. Really didn't fully appreciate what I was missing, right? So it's just amazing. So thank you for having us, and it was well worth the drive.
Thank you, Christina. And thank you, camera. I like this angle, by the way. No. So with that said, Manihu Inani Cheyenne Stone, Panatu Nu Agimana, Nu Novidu Topowana Matu. My name is Cheyenne Stone. I'm a member of the Big Pine Paiute tribe. In this capacity tonight, I am the chairperson of the Big Pine Paiute tribe. I'd like to thank Christina as well as Loretta back there for visiting the Big Pine Paiute tribe and our environmental staff and our TIPO staff today and visiting Three Creeks. So I did have a lot of time with them to spend. I personally had an opportunity to know Christina when Bishop did their energy, some kind of fancy plan. I don't remember off the top of my head, but Bishop Paiute tribe hosted an opportunity years ago. I don't even remember how many years ago. But Indian country is small, so with that said, my Inawa is here in my Iberu, and I will allow them to introduce themselves. But when I say we're all family, we are all family here in this geographical region. We're here eating sour berries from North Fork because that is part of our ancestral territory today. You know, we weren't just segregated to reservations. You know, we really have to broaden our perspective beyond just the boundaries of where we're located. And so with that said, Councilmember Lucas, as well as I will get your name correct eventually, you know, it's an honor to have you guys here today. And you are right, I am of the younger generation. I am not patient, and I need to speak slowly and listen. And today, you know, thank you for that opportunity. So with that said, I'm going to speak for my daughter tonight. She is here to just listen. This is my Iberu, Ellen Barlow. She is 13 years old. And Meryl Picard, they're part of the family. And my grandma, my family and my mother is Rosella Stone. So my Ibia is Rosella Nunaniet. She is a member of the Bishop Paiute tribe, and my grandma is Frances Fimbers, and she is 91 years old. So I enjoy just listening to them as well. So with that said, Inawa Kimayo. I'm really not long-winded. I am.
All right, thank you. It's a privilege to be here. I actually just came up to support my daughter here, and I see some familiar faces that I've known here, younger ones I don't know you, but not just old age. seems like me and Cheyenne took in a Caltrans meeting here about 2-3 weeks ago, and they were putting in a road down south of Lone Pine, Polancha area, and what they did was they ran across a bunch of old graves. So we had a meeting with their representatives from Sacramento and Frisco, and they came over. Surprised they came back and came over and went with people down there, and they're gonna reroute it, because that's real sacred to us, you know. Graves, not only to us, to non-Indians, but we let them know. And I just told them, I said, you know, at one time I was part of the Dallas Air Force Base north of Las Vegas, and you know, one of the things we have a hard time understanding about non-Indians and these groups and stuff is they don't look at the spiritual side of things in our tradition and culture, you know. So we enlighten them as best you could, and I says, you know, we could sit here for hours and not get anything done, but if you people would come back and take you out in the field and show you the things, and I'm all for teaching non-Indians our culture and tradition as much as I can. Can't tell them everything, but tell them mostly everything. It's they'll understand a little more and have an idea of where we're coming from and where we're going. I thank these two ladies for coming over here, and bless you all.
Thank you, Ross. Madam Chairs, Picard, and Stone, Community. I'm Rachel Joseph, the former chairwoman, vice chair of the Lone Pine Paiute Shoshone. I am also have a Dracomono family from over the hill. I also had the opportunity to be the political appointee, the American Indian Coordinator in the office of the governor during Governor Jerry Brown's first administration, an office which was established by executive order. So I guess that tells you I've been around a few times. I'm here tonight to also listen, and I think it's important that you are doing the work that you've been doing throughout the several months. And certainly, you know, want to applaud our governor, who's been very open and supportive. I know we've invested, meaning you have invested, a lot of resources, time and money to do this work. And can't help but feel concerned about what happens when we have a change of administration. You know, how will the work continue, and will the enthusiasm still be there? I'm all for healing and reconciliation, but I will not feel reconciled or truly healed unless something really meaningful comes out of all this work that's being done. And I don't mean just an apology saying, I'm so sorry, California Indians, you've been treated poorly. You know, we've ended up with postage stamp reservations, and that's what we got left of 3/4 of California. So I'm hoping that there will be some recommendations for reparations or language revitalization or something like that. I know that our elected tribal officials will know how to guide what would be meaningful, but something needs to come out of it as far as I'm concerned, and I'm hoping and praying that it will.
Just, you know, I'm just gonna keep it short with the greetings on just hello, you know, Winnemakwi, no Winnemakwi. And I appreciate you for coming out and saying what you said. I was told something about what you came out and mentioned to bring out. I took a deep breath when you said that, because there's so many elders who actually raised me a certain way, and you know, different things have been happening on this journey. It's a blessing. I understand a lot of people are afraid to see what may come of what this all is right here, but this whole thing is a blessing. They're waiting for our voices. They're waiting for a resolution on a reservation. If we remove any of the resolutions or any of these landmarks that are already placed out here, there was agreements legally made that we may not know of. So right here, personally from my own experience traveling from different reservations and different colonies and different people occupying these lands, I don't have a home, I don't reside anywhere, so I just travel wherever the lands take me. I don't have a job. For a minute there, I didn't have no ID, birth certificate, and everything. So from understanding different cultures throughout the indigenous nation under the Winnemakui name, you know, Wunumaka, you know, it's the people of the north, all indigenous people where we all came down. And then when you go through the California Trail, this is everything that it speaks of, all these archives in here, stuff that our tribes do not have. Communication with our elders is really important because in order to gain access of anything, we have to go through our heirs. We cannot go through our councils and committee no more. It's up to us, the people, to come together and create this healing and make relation, nation to nation. Keep that trust agreement with one another, with our councils. Yes, our attitude and everything does come in there. Yes, my voice is shaky right now because this is beautiful. I'm gonna say this right now. The many years that I've gone through with abuse, with the government alone, police department, medical, everything, it's all right here. And during these court cases with all these landlines, when you go back into the history and you find out all mining agreements were made throughout the Paiute Nation. We are peaceful people. So if we call peace upon the nations, we're working with the world. All our agreements are down here with throughout every single treaty. So, you know, when you go back in history, just understanding this alone, I've had people, you know, told me, you know, you should go for counsel, you should do this, and you know, it's for my people. And I'm here to speak with you guys today. I'm proud to see each and every one of you, even the people who come out of here, and I'm proud that you came back home, and I say home because this is all our home. Mother, Father, Sky, all together we're connected in one family, straight down up there, all the way down to South America. The change has already happened in the community. People are already speaking up against their councils. If you go back to history, even through the presidents, you can see what happened through Woodrow Wilson. All this stuff connects to if you go back looking even on the presidents in peace, you know, it's in the documents, in the archives. Our children need to learn this. And if there's one thing I learned on this journey, you know, it's not polite for me to mention ancestors' names who passed away, but Myron Dewey was a big inspiration. And he was right. We had to remove this technology, this modern world, which is a thief to our society. It's a thief to life. You know, it takes, you know, time when you're working. You always have no time, don't have money, don't have material. All these excuses we make in a modern world. So on that note, you know, from that journey, from here to now, I started out with no wisdom, no knowledge of a lot of this stuff. The only reason I made it through was because our spirituality and culture. And we watched children heal. You know, NAGPRA protected my son. He was out of school for like a month and a half through K through 12, but also through Peabody Institute, which is through Sarah Winnemucca. There's education, but how are we supposed to get it when we don't talk to our elders and we don't know this knowledge and this wisdom on how we are all connected throughout the world and how all these agreements are here and how the world is rejoicing us right now because of a meeting that was set in Fallon when someone spoke up for the people and said we need peace. Now the people are seeing peace throughout the world, change throughout our federal system. If we want this change really for ourselves, the time to come together now and work with our community the way that we always wanted it to be. We have a voice now, freedom of speech amongst the people. If we get it suppressed, we know who's uneducated, who was newly revised through their life. These bilateral agreements are already broken. It's time for us to speak on everything that went wrong. And the only way we could do it, majority of the time, is through our youth, who connect through our elders. And you put two and two together, and let them occupy the lands. They excel to where they want to learn. They find purpose in the law. They find purpose in the Bible. They find purpose in any spirituality that is out there, just a connection of Numarawi or Wunumaka. Wunuma. Numa is all of us indigenous people. Nowhere in there did it say we wasn't equal. We just believe the lies over time. There's a truth in every lie. But I love you all. And in that honor for what you said, I'm going to do this the best thing I can with my memory. Neya Kimara. Nananiet. Koso Mokotni. Nakatabinga Natukli Naga Namarawi. Moos Arameaho Owahitawa. Nama got justice for the people in a good way. And come together. Let's unite at our grandfather's White House in Carson. You know, that unity is there, that table is there, but where's the Grand Council? We forgot about our grand councils because our councils felt superior at one point. But in order to heal us now, we gotta admit the truth and face humility in a traditional way. Once we face humility, that word fear is gone. The healing comes through. So please do not be afraid of the people who came to you guys, who want to listen to you. Take in your heart an initiation that they are here now. We asked and prayed for this for years. The time is now to let it go. So I'll sing this song out of respect to the elders who came in here and asked. It's time to come out. It's time to come out, and I'm out here in the open. And I'm proud I spoke up for all you guys the other day. To see what the president came out and did, to know we could go past that and we don't have to fight amongst each other for a title. We're all equal, good in that way. We're fighting over title, over land, over lot. Why are we fighting over all this when there's more? Look at the 1 million acres that opened up for us to go to ceremony again. And yet we're still fighting to hold on to an acre of land. It hurts. It hurts to see us fight like this when we're all family, because our children are dying, our elders are crying. The answer and solution is here. Please, councils, from here on out, listen to the people because we're hurting. There is a way, but we need to work together. We need council just as much as council needs us. The world needs us right now. There's a lot of decisions out here tied into our lands, our resolution. People are waiting to go to work. As you can see, unions stopped. It started from the history somewhere. If you go back to Woodrow Wilson, you'll see why. International supreme laws of the land are very important. BIA.gov also tells you how you can actually run a tribe, and so you know. We were told to know this through Sarah Winnemucca, the Peabody Institute. We have accesses through colleges, police departments. Everything is tied to our nations worldwide. But if we don't stop fighting, we may just lose it again. For repeat history, we're just in the modern world. You remove this technology, you remove way of life, that way of life, there'll be peace out in that way. So I'll sing this song for you. Oh, it was good. This song, it was when I first started out with Mark, I passed away, went up with the prayer horse ride. So there's more words coming into this song. So I'm just singing with you, I should have it coming through.
Salut everyone. Good evening. Yeah, Naladin and Elliot Yesla. My name is Elliot Yesla. I come from Fallon, Nevada, representing the Paiute tribe. Last 2 days I've been here in Bishop. I learned a lot. Last couple days I still want to learn more, but this might be my last night, so tomorrow I'll probably be traveling back to Fallon. I just want to thank everyone for inviting me to this place they call home. I felt home too. Thank you for everyone that came. I want to thank everyone that's been supporting me. If I don't speak up, yeah, I'm going to lose it, but I do want to speak up more, learn everything in a good way. Yes, yes. Travel safe, everyone.
I'm Miranda, and
member of this tribe. I'm a descendant of my grandfather, Samson Louis, was one of the tribal chairman here, and I know a lot about him, and I've been learning from the treaties and everything he brought to this tribe in a good way. It hurts me to see other things changed in a different way than what he wanted to do for the people. He was here for the people. All the things, you know, like having them through with me. Have a hard time. I feel bad because I asked for help here. I slept in my car all winter because I had nowhere to go. My father would not help me. And I just feel so bad. My grandfather he would never do this to someone. And he was, hey man, he went for 2 world wars. And he helped his people. He helped make us red.
Manahu Anani Wasoya Martinez, Numanu Bishop Wani Kimadu, EB Pamela Martinez Nanya, Inavi No Martinez Nanya, and then I'm going to introduce myself in Navajo as well. Yat Ash Kirdo Shadan Ash Aya Wasoya Martinez Winche, not all the net Hachini Nishle, Sohan Evish Chin, Plezifan at Dishe, Wales and Dishanelle Ego Chicken Nishle, Tostas Ada Ashina High, Bishop Dan Nasha, Shaman Dosh, A. Pamela Dolna Martinez Woody. Hello everyone, my name is Wasuya Martinez. I'm of the Tobacco people running into the Water Clan, born for the near the Water people. The Minigoats are my maternal grandfather's clan and the Paiute people are my paternal grandfather's clan. I'm 17 years old and I come from this valley, and my parents are Neil and Pamela Martinez. And I'm here on behalf of the Bishop Tribal Youth Council. I'm the vice president, and we're just here to listen and learn from everyone who came, so thank you for everyone's time and effort for today. And yeah, thank you guys.
Manahu Ananiane Elisarino. I'm just here for the Bishop Tribal Youth Council. I'm the historian and I'm just here to listen. Thank you guys for all being
here. Manahu Inaniane Jolie Varela Numunu Paiute Yesh Tuli River Nukimaru, Ibia, Tony Spoonhunter, Imoa, Anita Spoonhunter, Sao Namatinu. Hello, my name is Jolie Varela. I come from Paiute, the place of flowing water, and from Tuli River. My mom is Tony Spoonhunter and my grandmother is Anita Spoonhunter. It's really nice to be here with everybody. Thank you for organizing this, and thank you to council for the warm welcome and the invite. And yeah, I think when we're talking about truth and healing, and really thank you so much for the Lone Pine Elder that talked about reparations, because to me that is so important. And us here as Native people from Paiute, the place of flowing water, where our water has been extracted and our land has been stolen to grow so-called Los Angeles, I think that that needs to be taught. The true history, the California genocide, needs to be taught in the school. I'm sure that's something that the Truth and Healing is talking about, but really specific here to this region is the theft of land and water. Richard Owens never stepped foot in this valley. This is Paiute, the place where water flows. So reparations, I'm on the advisory committee for Land Back along with Noah for the Three Creeks, the place that you saw today. We shouldn't have had to buy that. You know, to me, that's not real land back. We bought something. So with Los Angeles Department of Water and Power owning 95% of the valley floor, and then BLM owning 1%, and the Bishop Tribe having over 2,000 members, but only having 821 acres, so no land for our future generations, not to mention all of the other tribes here, we need more land. We can't sustain our future generations on what's happening here. So reparations, real land back, water back, all of that. What else? Education, as I said, like this needs to be taught. We don't even learn the history of what happened here in Paiute in our schools here in Paiute. So that needs to be learned as well. I know that there is a curriculum that needs to be implemented, which also needs to be happening in so-called Los Angeles, because they need to be aware where their water comes from. And there's so much that I want to say, and I don't even, but I also want to add that like, I don't like to say that anything's lost, like our language isn't lost, our ceremonies aren't lost. A lot of things are just waiting to be remembered, and I think that's how we need to think, is like these things are waiting to be remembered, nothing's ever truly lost. And we start our ceremony, we renamed a lake. You know, it used to be SQAW Lake, and now it's Numuhuhupi Lake, Paiute Women Lake. So, I mean, we can do anything. And if there's really this truth and healing, and if Mr. Newsom's really down, then let's do this.
Can we quote you on that?
Oh yeah. Newsom, are you down for real? But yeah, again, there's so much that I want to say about reparations, land back, water back, education, and I'm sure I might add more later. I don't know. Thanks.
Manahu. My name is Miranda David. I am Big Pine Paiute and San Carlos Apache. I actually just found out about this event today. Read about it really quick and I was like, ooh, that sounds really interesting. So I'm really just here to listen. It's already powerful, so this is awesome. And yeah, just happy to be here. Thank you.
Manahu, Jesse Burdick Archer, Big Pine Paiute Tribe. Just a couple of notes. That ideas that bubbled up that I was thinking about. Thank you for the precursor to this and what this Truth and Reconciliation Council hopefully accomplishes. Just some notes on our government, effects of our government from the inception of the state of California and federal government. Colonizer forms of and styles of government have been forced upon us by states and federal governments in order to be recognized by states and federal governments. And how that is tied to federal funding and state funding makes it very, very difficult for us to return to more traditional styles of governing our communities. As far as how I would personally like to see our history reflected in the archives, federal and state archives. Building off what my fan here said, we supply the water source to the single largest economy in the world, and I think the state of California should fund commissions with a specific purpose of calculating the monetary value of the paya stolen from our land. And in addition to that, the subsequent intergenerational wealth that has been accumulated by the state of California and the descendants of colonizers who run it. And that's pretty much it, so thank you.
Thank you for being here. Manahu, my name is Vincent Townsend, Bishop Tribal member. My grandfather is Sidney Dewey, my great-grandfather Samson Dewey. Edith Dewey is my great-grandmother. My grandma comes from Nevada. My dad comes from Fort Bidwell. So I'm Paiute all the way up there, all the way down through the wherever you say. I got cousins everywhere. But I've lived all over. And growing up, we never had a home. even though we're from here. We always move somewhere, my whole family. Because way back when, our parents were kicked off this res. So we just struggled wherever we went. You know, and just be homeless people. But growing up in all these other communities, I picked up a lot from where they're from, their reses, their struggles, their trials. And I grew up in an era of, you know, there was strong racism. You know, and this city is no different than any other. Because this city holds animosity from a long time ago. And these are old wounds that we have nothing to do with. But they're passed down. And I was looking at the report today from Inyo County, you know, 7 people arrested, 6 of them Indian, Native Americans. You know, you look at the numbers in jail, they're all, it's 50% Native American. We're not protected here, but when we ask for protection, they say we can't do that. This is not our jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is PL2A state is everything. And they deny our safety and our health. We're fighting for our own health with IHS here. You know, we don't have what we should have because it's like you're not fully there. I mean, our education, I worked with our education department. I remember and you know, as you know, when they're growing up, and I watched them grow up. We made changes back then, but we had to do it through OVCDC. So we were able to turn money to where we needed it to go to at that time I was there. But it was a fight. I went to school in Lawrence, Kansas. I could have went to Stanford, but I didn't want to go there. I chose to be where the people I know that are struggling. We don't have that here. You know, and like you say, with the education, the real truth is not here. The real truth is what makes a difference to how we're going to approach the future, how our children are going to be protected. The drugs that we see on our reservation are not from us. We don't produce them, but they live on our reservation, and we're not protected from them. They're taking over our homes, or given, you know, ability to live in homes that aren't even justified. You know, and nobody's able to go in and tell them to get out because the cops won't do it. I was arrested here in '93, got sentenced 5 days. They kept me 10 days in jail when I wasn't even my sentence. And I fought with the police down there about why should I be here. You know, I worked in the National Archives. I know what's there. You know, these documents, I've been there. I had an internship there, you know, in National Archives 1, and I worked on the BIA floor. And when you open those documents, you can smell the sage and the cedar and the medicine put on those documents about people praying for what they had from way back when. And that was hurt, because I read those. I spent 12 hours in those archives a day just because I wanted to see what was going wrong. I found my great-grandmother in there, Edith Powers Dewey, and she was a lobbyist for our tribe. You know, my great-grandfather Samson, he was a lobbyist for IHS, for the money to be here, for the funding to be here, to help our tribe. They did it for the people. You know, and that's all we ask, is for, you know, our leadership, you know, to step up and hear what the people really know. I fought years since I came back from school to try to help and contribute. But sometimes we have leaders who don't have much farther than the valley wall here. And that's the biggest problem. We're trapped in this valley. The deepest valley in the world, the federal side is on that side. We're considered Nevada when it comes to, you know, certain organizations, certain government agencies. So we don't get that access. I worked internship with in the USDA under the Farm Service Agency. This is considered a Nevada tribe, but they're not coming here. And they have huge funding, but they don't look at what we have here because we don't have land base for one. LA does not have a justification for taking what they took. There is no justification for all those things that had happened. You know, the cancers, the sickness that comes to our people now as a result of them taking the water off of the land. Our land, our ground is contaminated. There's just so much that, you know, hasn't been revealed. And our biggest problem is because of where we are. You know, just our fight is with the government still. You know, I've met some of the fire crew, the fire station workers who won't come out here. You know, and then we get a bunch of new officers that come through here and they just terrorize us. And like I said, 6 out of 7 were arrested. That's just unreal. You know, the programs that could help us and benefit us is protection. You know, in our language, you know, I do my best to keep our songs. I do my best to practice our language and our culture. But you can't do it in front of people who don't, you know, even care for it. So we're not powwow Indians here. We're real simple, you know, and I take pride in that. You know, I've done I don't know how many cry dances over the years. You know, Ross has been there with me, and just every weekend, sometimes 2, 3 at a time, and it hurts because we don't have where to go. We just do it. And we don't ask for money, we just do it. That's our job. So I'm hoping that, you know, we are being heard because we do have trust here in this land. And I've seen it in DC. And I've been to where the archives where they are. Because I was the one who was looking for all the missing documents that BIA had turned over custody to the National Archives. Well, they went and got those or some of those records and took back to BIA. And then BIA got burned down and never returned most of those documents that were so valuable. But there's still a lot there, even at San Bruno's. So I just encourage more help. And, you know, I know it takes time, but if I can step in, I know I will. Thank you.
I'm glad you said what you said, Vince. That's one of the things that been, you know, one of the things, countless reservations we've gone through, because there's so many people coming around, you know, just saying, hey, how did you guys do this? How did you guys do that? A lot of these archives in the beginning, before they actually brought it out to everybody to see in the open, it was a mission for us to seek. We would read into history where it would tell so much on Google, but to get into the archives, you had to have certain access and certain ways to get in there. Once you got in there, it's a whole different story. And it tells how these reservations started, what agreements were made. So if we do go back into our ancestry and into one of these archives, all these colleges throughout the nation are connected. We don't need to have a college degree, nor do our children need to be of age. You know, one thing that I spoke about on education with somebody before was a lot of these reservations have ties in the past through historical things, through education, through psychology, through different things, you know, different resolutions. You know, you want to find out the history, you find out which reservations could actually call upon Congress and receive these benefits for the people where we don't have to depend on taxes. We don't have to depend on grants. We don't have to depend on any of that. But that has to start with the nation relation, with our councils, with our people, with our community, and in the best way possible. So one of the biggest things throughout the reservations was we don't know. All the employees did not know their job. They didn't know where to direct people. They were doing multiple jobs for other people, and then I hear, our own employees saying we need assistance because everything is so messed up in these offices. So, just the lack of communication in the office, lack of communication out throughout the community, and misunderstanding of our historical past, past, present, and future. Just the mending of all that, so how to put this all in one, after so much that was dug up. There was a school that created a way, and that was through the Peabody. That is connected through Nevada, down through this way, straight down through the whole California area. So we can actually utilize those programs to help our children. And there's money in there that provides for education. And it's meant for all the indigenous people. But in order to do that, our tribal councils have to step forward and start asking and communicating with all the people throughout everywhere, and communicate with each other. Maybe Grand Council once a year or something, we don't know, but a lot of councils do not seem to know who the heirs are, from my understanding. They don't really acknowledge that, and they're making decisions without us. And the meeting that we attended that involves all the world, dealing with the Navy, dealing with lithium and all this stuff, I had to ask, is this cash over nations? Because it seems like our councils were taking money instead of going to the heirs, and even in that room, one of the main concerns was, all these organizations, all these councils and everybody came together. They did a good job. Yeah, they were planning out everything that they were gonna do, but throughout the whole meeting, all the way until the end, there was no mentioning of the heirs, no mentioning of the people. So now, coming to realization, knowing that, a lot of people were watching that meeting, that's our government. Realizing that, I may not have an education, I did not go to school, I did not receive any of that. A lot of this wisdom came from researching on my own ancestry, finding out who our people are, seeing how well we are connected straight from north to south to the world. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see the change, but what's not beautiful is to see now that all these government agencies being called out for making mistakes throughout these courts, and the president coming out and admitting that he committed all these crimes on our people. Our councils are failing, county and tribal. So, these answers to some of the things that are in here are in the archives for each and every one of our families. We can actually go back and research our ancestry to the oldest grandfather we have, and there's information in it that we could read about our own selves and remember some of the things that our own ancestors taught us, which is why I'm glad you came out and said, the elders need to be recorded now. Because I could see why, because I wouldn't remember a lot of these things that I was taught as I grew up. But I remember them because I went into the archives, and when I went to archives, I was like, oh, that's where that came from. Then my memory started coming back, the language started coming back, the healing started coming back, and the more passion and desire to want to bring unity more than fighting amongst each other. Doing things instead of, at one point I was like, there's lots of information, trying to teach people, no one wanted to learn. But just leading by example alone, and thank you guys for leading by example. So yeah, that's just a communication skill with all of it, and even just teaching one law to the children, one quote or anything, it's beautiful because then they want to stand up. And I've watched children actually stand up to the police officers, stand up to government workers, and tell the truth, how it was. And their parents actually felt proud. Their grandparents actually felt proud that they knew how to communicate on that level, and they knew what that law was, and they knew the history that it came from. And then the children were happy because they're like, I helped my uncle, out my cousin, I noticed something was wrong. But just to see them out in the community speaking up and saying something, and the elders happy, and then seeing elders do the same thing. Just learning the laws alone can teach you. It's connected. All of us is connected throughout, life. So I want to thank you guys for listening.
So we have a few in the back who still haven't introduced themselves. So we'll ask you to come up. And then one thing I did want to just kind of let this group know is we've heard a lot in this process about how sometimes people don't know their own histories because they are in archives and they can't access them and they don't know where they are. And so that's also a piece of this that we're looking into as well.
Hi everyone, everyone. My name is Arlene Brown, and I'm a member of the Bishop Paiute tribe. Nice to see you. Man, you know what? We didn't know we were going to be here tonight, and we really weren't sure what was even happening. But we literally were driving down 395 from Lone Pine, and we were so frustrated because we said, man, I wrote to LADWP just to see if I could have some land to lease for livestock, right? So we could feed ourselves and not depend on the grocery store, because that's where our family's headed more towards. And I'm like, well, we can't even get a little piece of that. Like, you know, LADWP should at least let us lease the land. And I'm like, that sounds so ridiculous to have to say it like that and to ask them if they have any land available for us to lease back. And we should have priority. And you know, and I thought, God, the whole system's designed to keep us down though, because we want to fight for little bits and pieces of things and little scraps, and be grateful for the fact that we got, you know, just a little piece of it. But we don't get enough to actually make a huge difference when it comes to a lot of things. And so, you know, and I think of the Healing Coalition, and I think of the suffering that addiction has brought on to our community, and I cannot not talk about that and share that, because that is one of the most oppressing things that is so troubling in our tribal communities. And how many lives do we have to lose until we get some real help and real answers for things? And I have to tell you, I'm going to give an example of why I have doubts of coalitions and different things, because I'm asked to be part of so many things that never amount to anything. Can you be part of this advisory board? Can you give your input on this? And where does it ever go? I never get any feedback. Change never happens. And if it does, it's not significant enough to actually make a difference. And so my hope, you know, my realization is that a lot of it is just a checkbox of formality, and it never goes anywhere. And I'm gonna share one example with you of my frustration and why I thought I was being asked to be part of something. And I'm gonna set it up to you, because you guys are California tribal members, right? Okay, you're being asked to be part of the guiding coalition of knowledge keepers, pathways to healing, okay? See, I just sent that out to you. And I want your guys' input and help, because you're California natives. You know what it's like to be in California, brought up, raised, you know what I mean? And you know, we want to do some significant work with this work group. It's going to be a work group, right? So you guys say yes to the invitation. You guys are excited because you're like, man, I can make a difference. I feel like my voice is going to be heard, because being part of the guiding coalition of knowledge keepers and pathways to healing sounds super important. Okay, so then you start, and the meeting starts, people are all introducing themselves. You see a few people that you might respect a little bit. And then you find out that it's put on by UCLA, no problem with that, because they have funding from the state of California to put this on. No funding, I mean, no qualms about that, okay? But then you go and find out that the people that are helping UCLA make sure that they're doing it in a native, indigenous way is a group of people that aren't even native from California. So I have a group of natives from all other states who aren't even from California advising UCLA on how to work with me. And I was so offended, and it just crushed me, because I thought, man, this is work that I know and do. Like, I live and breathe all of this, and here I'm gonna have to, these people are being taught by people that aren't even from California, but they got big bucks to do it. So these non-California natives are gonna work with me, right? Is that backwards? But that's how it goes. I just want to share that with you as an example of how big government in California does things, and why that's frustrating to me and super offensive that you bring in natives that aren't even from California to advise them how to work with me. That's all they were there for. They were there to give advisement to UCLA, because UCLA is non-native, so they were there to give advice and guide them and how to work with me as a California native, and I thought, wow, let's cut out the middleman. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, we never needed any of that. But to me, that's my frustration, and how can we begin to even heal through that kind of process? Because I know what's going on behind the scenes. So my faith in that whole process really kind of shrinks back down, and that connection to the land is huge. And I just think, man, we literally were just discussing how we don't have enough resources to get what we want going. We were trying to ask LADWP for just a little bit of land to lease. That's obscene. And I'm thinking, man, can our tribal council like go and approach LADWP and say, hey, you guys need to make priority to tribal members if they want to lease land for cattle or whatever they want to do. They should make us a priority. But I know that on the other side of town, that lease has been in that family for 25 years plus. Wow, that's nice. I would like to raise livestock there too. Because that's huge and important. We want to be self-sustaining here. You know, there's so many broken systems that the school system's broke. Well, we're doing homeschool because it's not up to the school to actually educate my children anymore. It's really our responsibility to educate them and feed them that good information, where they come from, who their people are, what it means to actually be a Native person from this valley. That's huge. A lot of people, there's that disconnect too that happens because sometimes we're not asked that, like, who are we as Native people? A lot of us, people are lost to addiction and other things, and we need to make sure that we're getting those connections back. I think that is like one of the hugest pieces, and that connection to that land is really huge because that's where some of that healing takes place, is literally the actual connection with that land. So anyways, I'm glad to be here, and glad we kind of stumbled in and found our way here.
Is the land that you're talking about where they have that lease, is that LADWP land?
Yes.
All of it is.
With a nice house and everything all set up.
All of it is. All of the surrounding area. My name is Stephen Don Darrow. I'm a Bishop Paiute tribal member, and I just want to add that all of that land that surrounds us, that's being leased to these ranchers and stuff, they're not native, and nothing has, you know, we can't even get a little piece of the pie to help our own people with raising cattle. Kind of odd.
Hi everyone, I'm Mike Godby. I'm the Director and Attorney of the Bishop Office of California Indian Legal Services. I do not have any Indigenous ancestry, and I'm just here to listen. Thanks everyone for coming and making the trip. This is Bodie.
Hi Bodie.
Hi, on a similar note, my name is Jason McCannell. I work at California State Parks in the Director's Office. And I'm also helping Christina, who I started working with actually in Sherry Brown's office a few years back with the research duties on the Truth and Healing Council. I'm a geographer. I work on place names. I work on changing place names in state parks. And I also work in the federal government. I'm a member of the Advisory Committee on Reconciliation and Place Names that is following up on the Tribe on the S word that happened last year. We're looking at other derogatory, problematic names within federal land units and on the entire national map. So anyone wants to come talk to me about any of those kind of issues, please let me know. Yeah, I'm just really happy to be here, excited to be supporting this effort. I've done a lot of work over the last few years to try to bring forward the truth about the state's history, and that we aren't just this, place where, you come enjoy the sunshine and, reinvent yourself and have a nice home and a nice career. It has a very troubled past, and we're not going to be able to live here and be healthy together until, we start to talk about that. So thank you, everyone. Thanks to Bishop for having us here. Very happy to be here.
I know someone.
After this. Being native from here, like, we can't even count how many generations we come from. We come from this land. This land is who we are. And we have, the second most expensive bonds in the nation. And so we're over here trying to live, some of us paying white people to to rent a home and making only so much money and known as a tourist destination where we have to pay so much money for food. So I like this sustainability and being able to really have food sovereignty. So can Newsom work on that too? It's not fair that we are being priced out. Oh no, that we're being priced out as Native people who have always been here, and we're like, how do we live? How do we live? You know, and so that's something that has been frustrating me every first of the month when I pay white people to live on my own home.
Thank you.
I'll run this. You can sit. Oh, yeah, cool. That works.
Great. Yeah. Cut you right here. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and take off my title hat. You know, at the end of the day, we are just Noom and I'm Washishu. And so with that said, I would like to see appropriations from the state be at the same equity level as the California counties. You know, we do tribal consultations, we get letters, you know, from state and federal agencies. At the end of the day, our TIBOs are not compensated. You know, that's not a reflection of the appropriations from California. However, as the governor implements a lot of regulations for tribal consultation, at the end of the day, tribes don't have the tribal capacity and tribes need tribal set-asides. I think it would be helpful to bring workshops to the people, not only tribal members. So when I say workshops, I mean workshops that are meaningful, that tell people how California bills are done, how appropriations are budgeted for by our certain subcommittees, and lobbying is done. Unless you've been in the game or walking the halls of the Capitol, people that don't have resources, and I am those people, without my personal connections, I would not have the opportunity to do lobbying for California agriculture or work on the Strategic Growth Council for, you know, reports. But that's because a non-native organization, the California Alliance of Family Farmers, helped put me in that capacity. Tribes need to have resources to teach them how to, I hate to say it, but lobby to the governor and say we are just as important as California counties. We don't have the ability to get taxes. We don't get equity on the land we have. We need to dismantle and decolonize these systems that allow us to, one, reconnect with our land. You know, Arlene Brown said a lot of things. I didn't catch your name, but you know, we feel because our basic needs are not being met because of the systems that we have in place, the systems that stem from colonization. You know, DWP came back and worked in the guise of the Bureau of Reclamation. We started the Owens Valley Board of Trustees, where we were a consortium of tribes from Lone Pine. Mr. Dewey was part of that, you know, where our people were helping to do better for our Paiute here in the valley. At the end of the day, they used it against us. They used these systems that have created such a different mindset for how we are trying to just govern our land. We are not connected with our land. So when LADWP came through, they cataloged us, and the report was called the Indian Problem Report. The BIA, they cataloged us. You know, the same thing you guys are doing here. You guys are cataloging us for research and data collection. And in order to make that meaningful for us to be heard, you know, we respect that you guys are here today, but I personally want to see the governor at the Truth and Healing session. I'm sorry, but I am not Tahoe. I am not as cool as my Washishu family up there that have a big lake. But what I can show you is the value that we have here in Paiute from the Owens Lake, the aftermath that, you know, and the correlation between the dust and the cancer and the people from up in Katsarika tribe, from Levining. You know, they are working with nonprofit stewardship in order to put land back in their hands. But at the end of the day, we don't have an ability to acquire land that allows us to reconnect and heal. So with that said, you did have an opportunity to visit 3 creeks today. You know, they fundraised a significant amount of money. At the end of the day, now in 2 or 3 years, what happens? Do they have to fundraise every time to pay the property taxes on that? Is there a way that we could develop a new set aside to where they could still have equity on that land, but don't have to take taxes out? So have the counties remove that from the tax rolls that still maintain the equity value because they raised a significant amount of money to have that in stewardship. You know, Native American tribes, you know, unfortunately sometimes we have that internalized racism that puts us in these structures. We really need to dismantle that and allow nonprofits in different tribes, you know, we're all here, we all wear different hats. At the end of the day, be treated with mutual, you know, they're not nation to nation, but they should be treated with the same respect as tribes. So the good example is the Owens Valley New Water Commission. They do a significant amount of work. They are not a tribe, they are a nonprofit, but the work they do has tremendous value. And that's utilizing the federal government resources to build that capacity. There needs to be, again, appropriations from the governor that allows us as tribes to build that capacity, us as nonprofits to build that capacity, us as just people, regardless of title or organization. And I respect that you guys have a library that's able to tell our stories. We need our stories because our history is not accessible. Our history is, you know, not documented. And with that said, I would like to see the schools implement mandatory curriculum and tribal set aside for that, to where it's individuals could get paid, not the tribes. But if the people want to tell their story, we should be, our indigenous knowledge is richer than any PhD. You know, I'm listening here and I'm learning a lot of everybody's feedback. You're right, it's not a title at the end of the day. These systems that we try to conform our traditional values, they don't work. And those are the systems that were created by the federal government. These were the systems created by the state that removed our, you know, spiritual connection, removed our ability to not have to work, removed our ability to, one, just be who we are as indigenous known people. So with that said, my second recommendation, well, I really don't know how many recommendations, but at the end of the day, I think that I need to see where money is coming from the governor to know that things are taken seriously. I want to see LADWP held accountable for items. Their county dictates what happens here from the Owens Valley. I would like to see somehow we see the valuation of and the cost of how much affluent wealth is in Los Angeles compared to the resources they are extracting from the Owens Valley. You know, I need to know that our resources are invested beyond just tourism dollars, and that's really true healing. That has the ability to, one, provide homes for the people that were removed from all this stuff. You know, that has the ability to implement curriculum into schools and pairing it with the superintendent to have cultural teachers that are people teach language, you know. So at the end of the day, I really respect that you guys are doing an oral history. I think people should be compensated for that, to tell their stories and to listen. You know, it's part of healing, right? Opportunities. So I thank you guys. And then next.
I want to say one more thing. I don't need a microphone for it, but I want to say, because the youth is here and that y'all are so awesome for coming and being in this space. And just a reminder that, like, you don't have to be an official leader sitting on council or working for the government to be a leader. You know, you're already leaders in your community. And maybe, like, we don't have to have that official role. I consider myself a leader. I consider these people leaders. We can do good things in our community without having to, like, I'm not even a tribal member here. This is my maternal homelands, but I feel like I get a lot of things done here regardless. So you don't have to be in an official tribal position or work for the government or anything like that to do good and be present in your community. Like, you're leaders, whether you're voted into a position or not. So I just think that that's an important reminder, since we do have youth here.
So
I wanted to kind of go back to some of the big issues, and some of our community members really touched on it. You know, DWP has been a long history of trauma and pain for our people, and it continues on, and we have legacies of family members who carry on that work. You know, Noah's one of those people. And so, you know, Arlene talked about the leasing, and so I met with the commission of the DWP a few weeks ago, and I brought that up about first right of refusal is what it's called, and that they have the power to change that policy and to change the wording instead of it going back to those farmers like they're talking about as the first right of refusal goes back to whoever was leasing that land first, that they change it and the first right of refusal goes back to the tribes. And not just to lease it, but to give that land back to us and start to give it back to us. So if that's one takeaway and something that we could do to help make a change here in this valley, that would be a start. Because we're landlocked and we can't grow, even though our tribal members, you know, we're growing in those numbers, but we don't have the land to provide homes for them, or economic growth, or food sovereignty like they're talking about. And we've seen that hurt during the pandemic when people from LA came up here in vans and took the food from our grocery stores. And our community members who were working at those grocery stores actually started to tell the local people when the food trucks were gonna arrive, just so that we could get it first before they came up here and they took that food from us. So that's an ongoing issue, but we really felt that hurt during that time. And you know, I think that's one of our biggest issues because it surrounds us and it continues to surround us. And like many of our members have said, and Jolie may not be an enrolled member, but she's a member, and I think that's something that needs to change here too, is that understanding of our descendants, regardless if they're enrolled in one tribe or the other, they're still from here and they're still part of our people. That's something we need to work on as tribal people, I think. But definitely, you know, when it comes, I love what Vince said too about safety and IHS. Those are all crucial components when it comes to California tribes. We've never gotten the funding that we actually need for healthcare. And being located where we are, it's very difficult for our people. We have to be flown to Nevada, you know, and to get some of those emergency type services for our community members. I actually did put in for the education subcommittee as someone who suffered my entire life with education and struggled with a disability I never knew I had until I got myself tested in college. I had to try twice as hard. So when I came back into our community and started working for our people, education was on my heart and was one of my passions because I didn't want our youth to struggle in the same way that I struggled. And I started to find out that the reason why I never got the services that I needed is because they started to target Native people long ago for special ed education. Then they changed the law so that they weren't identifying or putting these Indian kids in these special ed classes, but then my generation comes around and when we actually needed it, we weren't given those chances to be, have those services to help us and to allow us to get through. I chose to leave here and go to Sherman Indian High School. I graduated from there, and without that school, I probably wouldn't have gone beyond that and off to college because I struggled so much and I got pushed along here in this system here. And the teachers at the time, a lot of them were very racist and didn't understand our culture and our history and times when we wanted to, you know, or needed to take time off for certain traditions. And I was raised by my grandparents as my mom was a single parent. And so that was a struggle for me, and that's why it was a passion for me when I came back home to work in our education department. And we, as a tribe here, actually brought in our own specialists to start identifying students. So I'm dyslexic, and I found out that I was severely dyslexic, and they were surprised at how far along I was able to go without any services. And I started to find out that it's generational, it can be passed down. But there's so many services to help people who are dyslexic. And so we started educating our community about it, and I was having parents come up to us and say, I think I need that help too. And it just touched me that they were so willing to ask for that help themselves or want that help themselves. Because of the distrust we have with the school systems, I don't feel like our parents feel comfortable advocating in the way they want to. Another issue has always been around ceremony time for graduations, and I had to fight for some of our students to even wear beaded caps, feathers at times, and now regalia underneath. So actually, one of the young ladies down there, because she's also from the Navajo tribe, I'm not sure if it was her or her sister, but you know, they wanted to wear their traditional Navajo attire under the cap, but wanted to wear it open. And our own people who work for our schools were some of the ones who were stopping it. And so that lateral oppression that now we see in our communities too is significant, and it's unfortunate. But I hear what some people are saying and feel very connected to the words that are being shared tonight, because I too have lived them. And it's sad that I had to wait until I went off to school to find out the truth about my people, and had to heal away from my people of that hurt, because it wasn't taught to me when I was here in my community where I could have got the support I needed during that time. And but I think that we go through some of these struggles and these pains for a reason, so that we then could show others how to go through it and how to overcome it. And we come from really strong and resilient people. So lastly, I just want to say too, going back to the land, even on the reservation, we struggle with developing the land and the infrastructure needs for our tribal members. So you do go throughout the community, and you might see these open spaces or these open lands, and it's because our people can't even afford to put anything on them. And they wait for our housing department to build them a house, and we can't wait for that because they may be waiting for generations. My mom got her house built when I was in high school, so I was already almost out of the home by the time she had a home, and we moved around a lot too. And I know that many of the community members know this, and it's kind of controversially too, but I live without running water. I have no running water in the home that I stay in, and so my family has to pee in a bedside commode. And then I take that bucket down to my mom's house and I dump that out. And so I understand the struggles that our community and our family members live with every single day, because I do too. And these are just some of the things, I guess, from what I was hearing that I wanted to share.
I do want to highlight too that we are looking for members of the Tribal Regalia Task Force to advise, yes, and it's not age limited, we just need a recommendation from a tribe. So that could be a quick email. But again, if anyone feels like having a voice in that space, it would just be during the fall. I'm looking really hard in this direction. And I think it would actually be super helpful for the state to hear from people who actually had to experience it and what that was like and what the impacts are. Because right now we have 2 laws that actually protect your right to do that, to wear your traditional regalia for graduation ceremonies in public schools. And the fact that it's not happening is the problem, and that's what this task force is looking at.
Would you like to say?
I just wanted to say that it was my sister Uriah Martinez who was fighting for her open gown during graduation, and she did get to wear it open. She wore her Navajo traditional wear, and another problem that occurred during that time was I was beating her cap, and it was brought to our attention from our principal that we weren't allowed to beat on the top of our caps. So I went ahead and beat it on the top of her cap anyways, like there's nothing he was gonna do about it. So I just beat on the top of it, and it was just really controversial at the time because even our own Native American liaison was telling me no. But yeah, I just went ahead and did it anyways. And then there was also some problems with our Latino community, and they wanted to wear their like banner things of their Mexican flag, and our principal was talking to the club, and he had said, "Oh well, there's a Mexican on the school board, so it looks like there's a vote for you to be able to wear that." So that's like a big problem within our communities is that us natives in our schools, we aren't really like normalized, and it's like kind of difficult to get things approved, but we still find our ways, and yeah.
See how far it'll go.
How's it going? My name is I'm a Bishop Paiute travel member. I just want to reiterate what Arlene was talking about. I'm the Deputy Director of Medication for Addiction Treatment in Southern Inyo. We also run SCOTA Native American Harm Reduction Services for Inyo and Mono County. And that organization that was outsourced outside of California to support UCLA in teaching us about what's going on in our Native communities. I can tell you in no better way that they're wasting your money. You know, and I ask that you sit in on some of their meetings or watch some of their recordings, and you're gonna be flabbergasted on how there's no real direction in helping people. We have the highest rates of overdose in Indian country. And I had to stand up and say something. Generally I wouldn't, but man, I care about our people. And those people don't care about our people like we do. And we have Native people here in California that are plenty capable of doing what they do and above and beyond. So I ask that you look into that, or have the governor look into that, or give me a call. Awesome, thank you.
Hi. So along the lines of what Mr. Dondero said, you know, we need to be recognized. I don't need a license. He doesn't need a license or Arlene in order to be a licensed clinical counselor. We have our own traditions of whether it's, you know, stepping outside, we as tribes should have the ability to receive the same amount of money for our mental health services. It's a huge need, so it shouldn't be contract out. It needs to go directly maybe to individuals. You know, we can't rely on the tribe to have pass-through money. There should be opportunities to where if you wanna run your own musa or you wanna run your own talking circle, and you know the person wants to reach directly out to you, we should cut out the middleman, cut out the tribe, so it goes directly to the people sometimes, because sometimes our internalized you know, rules and regulations because of the systems that are in place don't allow us to do that. Or you know, we have counties that are telling us, hey, we have appropriations to implement these systems, but they put people that are not in our community, they put people not Native American that don't know our cultural practices. So circling back around to my first thought is a huge legislation that was part of like monumental. I would like to record for the record that Brown versus the Board of Education was a huge lawsuit that one of our local Paiute people named Alice Piper fought for. And mascots is a huge controversial issue. School districts don't necessarily have the resources that allow to change the names for items. If the governor wants to talk about, you know, how do we move forward with truth and healing, I'm of that generation to where I am able to dissect and decolonize that mascots are not cool. Mascots lead to the negative psychoanalysis for kids. My daughter is a Big Pine warrior, even though I'm a Bronco at heart. I never went to Big Pine school.
Was the controversy you were talking about?
Correct. So in order to change the school mascot, you know, they need resources. Resources have to be derived from the state of California. Resources have to be set aside to say, hey, we want language back. The Superintendent of Schools Association, the Teacher Association needs funds to implement the curriculum. The tribes could use tell the story and documentaries to write the resources, to rewrite the narrative for California missions, but we need to have our people paid for telling this story. So at the end of the day, Mascots is a huge issue, but in order to change that, they need funds and money to do so. But my dad is of a different level. He loves the warrior mascot and the chief, whatever he is, down there. But that is a generational thing.
Thank you. So we're almost at time. I don't want to cut it off if folks want to keep discussing and sharing, but I also don't want everybody to get exhausted on the first round because we'll be back. Does anyone?
I just want to know how this information is going to be used. You said there's going to be a report, but what are the tangible things that you are hearing from us today?
So I've heard quite a few things today, and I'm gonna need some time to process it and pull it out and think about what it looks like as reflected in the actual report. But I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but everything that we hear in these listening sessions, of course, is recorded. We also have notes. Those get pulled into the report writing, and then once the report is in draft format, it'll go out to tribes, it'll go out to the community to make sure it reflects what you actually said. Because sometimes there is a disconnect between what you thought you said and what you know you said and what we heard or received or how it got translated. So some of the things that I'm hearing today, obviously major issues with a city agency owning most of the land in this valley and making it impossible for the tribes here to grow, thrive, create opportunity, create community development, bring people home in the way that you want to. I'm also hearing that there is a lot of emphasis on creating opportunities for outsiders to come and enjoy themselves in your homelands at the expense of your people, but also where that revenue may not actually be benefiting your people. I'm also hearing that there are structures in place, like the IRA constitutions, that might not actually reflect traditional values and may need to be re-examined so that the way that you organize yourselves actually reflects your traditional values and isn't impossible to change. I'm hearing that there are really deeply entrenched issues with health services and services that will help people struggling with historical substance abuse, intergenerational traumas, and that's not getting to these communities. I'm hearing that there are major public safety issues and also major issues in how public safety is being implemented here in a way that is disproportionately targeting Native people. I'm hearing that there is a lack of access to healthy foods, and that there's also a lack of access for tribal members to be prioritized in accessing healthy foods. And I think just generally across the board, what I'm hearing is that there is a deep need here and a want for all of you to have homes, to have community, to have everything for your kids, for your futures, and to have your kids understand their place and their birthright in this place in a way that isn't being reflected in the local school curriculum. So that's kind of just, what I think I'm hearing here. And I think that's hopefully kind of the baseline ground level that we're going to be thinking about this region through that lens. I am hearing that there are some
timeline, so they know the timeline.
Yeah, and then also I'm hearing there's some lateral issues, and I'm hoping that with this process, it's giving you a common enemy to kind of disentangle some of those lateral issues, but I won't put too much hope into that. But if you need someone to be mad at, the state's a good option.
Yeah.
And we won't be offended. We just work there for now. But timeline is, right now we have the listening session. We will come back for a quarterly meeting because I think there's enough going on in this specific region and it's so distinct that it really does require a few days to kind of think through all those issues and create a bigger platform. That is over the next year and 2 years really. The initial report, which is a final report but isn't a final report, will be out in 2025. A draft will be out also during that timeline for the community to review, to reflect on, to see whether it actually reflects your goals, the things that you thought you, or that you expressed that may not have translated, and tell us where that needs to change. And also, in the meantime, if all of you can sign up for subcommittees and other spaces, those subcommittees will be developing the recommendations that will also go into that report. So there'll be a lot of back and forth. You're welcome to come to all of the quarterly meetings, all of the listening sessions, all of it. And by 2025, I think what we're hoping to have is a start to this conversation and a start to where we can do actual legislation, funding, all of the things in very kind of clear language. So there's not really a lot of budget, like it's not like we just want more land. It's like this agency needs to give back these parcels of land, that type of thing, so that it's a lot easier to do. And then we hope to create in that report an expectation that there will be like 5-year reporting, updating, and reworking based on how things go here. To address this living beyond the governor's administration, we anticipate that that will be part of this as well, and part of whatever you want to see from this as well.
Christina, thank you.
I'll add something in a minute.
Question.
Yeah.
Hearing what you just spoke of, oh, thank you.
Just the GoPro, so we can get everybody else.
I'm just wondering, I would like to stay involved with this project. And I'm gonna go over my notes and my interpretation of this, but I'm wondering, as we go through these stages, can we request a hard copy that can be sent to us on an individual status, whoever's interested? I don't have a computer or anything like that, so I like paperwork.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I can review that and add and go like that, because I want to support on behalf of our elders, and I feel that they play an important and an impact part of this as well. Okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Here.
I'll talk loud.
Okay.
I was listening to the comments, and some of it hit on federal funding and local funding and on and on and on, which you don't really have the ability to deal with in the near term. And you're talking about, completing your report in 2025. Just to some of us, that seems like a long way away. But I recognize there's a lot of time in gathering the truth about what happened to our people. What you can do in the immediate term, because part of the recommendation said we need more resources, you have the ability to ask the governor to increase the funding for these Indian education centers. There's one right here on this reservation. That would be very helpful to, to have an effect in the near term for the little people that are still getting their education. So the request that you could respond to is ask the governor for more money for these Indian education centers.
Thank you, that's what we love to hear. And really love the specificity of the recommendation. To kind of also respond to that is, as there are things like that are specific like that we can do right now, that are easy to do, it doesn't take a lot of study to the impacts, and it's a clear need, like we can get working on that right now. It's like how we have the 101 million for tribal nature-based solutions in 30 by 30. That's because we kept hearing land, land, land. It's not perfect, it's a start, but I think that's like an amazing example of, if you see something, say something, and we'll start working on it.
Thank you. What did you want me to say?
That was exactly it. Just like these conversations are actually.
And that's just exactly what I was gonna add, is that these conversations, changes are happening in real time. If you have something specific to recommend, that, things have happened. And so I think we're building momentum right now. And so the more engagement that we have, the more folks that engage in the process, I think the better, as far as the immediate items that we can take under consideration.
Well, I really love your answer. I love your request, and since you're able, let's do that. Very specific request to not outsource help when it comes to our opioid crisis, because
money has been allocated and set aside, but it's also been a slow process and has been wasted. All that money comes from SOAR 3 funding, and the rest of the state, they have a big chunk of money that they use out of that SOAR 3 funding for all kinds of things. Then they set aside this money for tribal medication assisted treatment, TMAP funding, but that's outsourced. The technical assistance team comes from other places, not in California, and they don't know what they're doing with that money. And we're going on our 4th year of trying to figure out what our tribal best practices are. And as she said over there, like, we can run our own talking circles. We don't need 4 years to figure out what our best practices are. We're Native people. We already know what our traditional ceremonies and practices are. So all that money, everyone just kept spinning their wheels with it, and it hardly made a dent in that, because after 4 years of funding, you should see a decrease, right? Like, if you're allocating funding for the opioid crisis, you should actually see some evidence that it's working, but it's not working because the technical assistance isn't there, because it's being provided by a team that doesn't know what they're doing, because they're not from California. They're not natives from here, and we have experts right here who know how to use that and who know how to provide technical assistance to get the job done, you know, in a really good way for our California people, because it's our relatives. That's why we care so much, because we're tired of seeing our loved ones die, right?
That's all I wanna say too, is that our loved ones are dying, why these people are sitting there. In one of the meetings, the lady was talking about colored feathers and all this nonsense. It's like, if you've ever heard of the YMCA Indian guides back in the early 80s, that's what these people are doing. And the seriousness is that we have family members that are over here that are dying. So, can we make it quick?
That's a request.
My request is to make it quick. Take a good look at that, get them out of here, hire people from California. Like, there's some good people in Sakui and all that stuff. Get those ladies on board with taking over and making it happen. I don't know, the lady never talks about like the technical assistance people, the one in charge. She never talks about like having a Narcan drive-through event, you know, to where people are actually engaging with their community and training people and teaching them about these life-saving medications. It's a joke, and it's super sad, and I'm upset because people are dying, you know.
Well, we wait, yeah.
Why we twiddle our thumbs and I've watched it for a couple of years. It's pretty ridiculous, but please help us with that.
Thank you, we appreciate that. We'll look into that. And then also, like, I think same point goes, like, if you need stuff right now, like I've heard Sakui tell some of our agencies, like, these are the things we need right now, and if you're not gonna do that, then just don't even bother. Like, if there are things that you know we need right now and you don't need 4 years, like, we can go run those budget requests down.
Thank you.
I just wanna say really quickly, to back them up, I love people who are addicts, and I'm a recovering alcoholic. And I want to thank you, Arlene, because you came to the house to teach us how to administer Narcan in the front yard during the pandemic, to show us how to do that. Heaven forbid one of our loved ones die from an overdose. So that's the work that's being done in community, and I think it's really important to listen to them, and that's it.
No, so, you know, I need to reiterate, so California, should have student forgiveness. I know there's a new, UC, ability to go to school for free. What about the students that have already invested a significant amount of money? You know, if I have $100,000 debt, you know, I should at least be forgiven for at least 30,000 of that, if not more. You know, education should be free, especially for Indigenous people, because the universities exploited the knowledge, because those ethnographers came through and utilized that for their PhDs, for their graduate programs. At the end of the day, I fall within that category for not forgiveness. I will have no equity because I will choose to live on the reservation. However, my daughter will benefit from that UC system. The second requirement I'm asking is to have California implement
restrictions on how much DWP can extort. Sigma is not relevant to clauses, and I'm gonna look toward NOAA because I can't tell you that regardless of Sigma being implemented, at the end of the day, they are exempt from Sigma. We are non-priority. We could justify at the end of the day how they have used law and policy to allow continued extortion to LADWP. As far as the elders, I have a 91-year-old grandma. She is a product of boarding schools. With that said, I want you to go back and I want you to ask for appropriations. Because my grandma can't wait 4 years. The elders, I can't speak to that, but they need appropriations this year. She is on a fixed Social Security income. She is the reason why we don't say, I love you. You know, she's changed as the years grow, but she is the product of the policies that enforced a lot of these structures that we're trying to just heal from. The elders can't wait. So I would like to go and ask the governor to put aside appropriations for reconciliation, because unlike my grandma, she has lots of years. We also have youth that are dying because of opiates. We are all exposed to, you know, the health discrepancies and health disparities. We are all exposed to when we lose people in our community to drugs and alcohol. There should be a reassessment in the next year to say, hey, we shell out X amount to the counties. How can we put that back into tribal hands? And that is what it means for nation to nation. So I do see the time, so that's all I have to add.
I was wondering if there could be a program, because there's a lot of us out here and a lot of people that I'm working with that don't want to come out of the shadows knowing who they are, because they have been getting pushed out of meetings, they have been getting harassed and assaulted, or their children or their families, you know, and to see these patterns happen over and over, and they know that they can do something against, you know, cemeteries to help protect their land, but when they go to their tribal councils and communities, even out in the county, they're shoved out. So they don't want to relinquish their title either, they want to stay members. So is there a program and a place that each individual can go and they feel safe and they feel secure enough to come out and say, hey, I'm here, can we please establish this land back? And, you know, we want to make agreements and we want to file against these companies, you know, personally, because they're the, you know, they know who they are. So is there a safe place these people can go? Because I'm running out of options on, you know, like, you know, we're going into council meetings with them. We're being told to leave, and then we go into, you know, other places and, you know, get attitude and everything. So I was glad, you know, one was actually recorded on video. And, you know, that's one thing a lot of them want to do. They don't want to relinquish their rights, and they understand that they don't have a say and voice in council, and nor have they been communicated with any of these agreements. So, you know, how, you know, just to have a program where they can go safely and address these and work in communication, so we can learn how to communicate with our communities and our councils, you know, once again. So, you know, that's one of the main concerns that, you know, a lot of elders are crying for right now, as is.
I'd say, at least in the context of this council, we're happy to meet with people off the record. We offer that to tribes throughout the state, that like, we will meet with you, it doesn't have to be part of the record, it doesn't have to be public, and really just, if there are things that we need to be thinking about in the context of this work that people are not comfortable with talking about publicly or having as part of the public record, we can do that. We also offer that if you're not comfortable with one of us because you think we have weird issues, like one of us can not be in that room. And then also, I don't know if we made this clear either, but those consultations and those meetings don't become part of, they become like aggregate data, so that the governing council can understand them and read through them, or understand like what the issues are without basically keeping them anonymous. Not without, but keeping them, but, and really we do that because we also wanna respect the confidentiality of tribal governments if they have proprietary information that they wanna share with us, while having that information, you know, be part of this work. So we would be happy to have those meetings as well. And we've had in the past too some concerns about individual members of the governing council just because of different, well, you know, it's tribal stuff. But, so if there is ever kind of a concern about that, again, we're happy to meet with people offline, off the record, and we'll put in whatever you want us to share in that space.
All right, thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah. Should we ask? I think, would anyone like to do a closing, like a closing prayer? So, yeah.
Council member, do you want to say a few words?
Puppy untied my shoes.
She's keeping you young.
This probably has been one of the better groups who have been able to articulate your concerns and your desires for the future. I'm really proud of you, particularly the younger generation, and the fact that you've been able to articulate these concerns without expressing the anger. That's been one of the things I've been really concerned with. We're all angry. We've come with that anger. A little bit of anger is good. It helps us do things, but we can't waddle in it. So if we're going to be productive in our future, we have to do exactly what you folks have done, and I just want to praise you for that. Thank you for that. Hopefully we can get something good out of all of this that will benefit all of us. The land is really the issue. I would like to also talk about my ride up here today with my wonderful friend and attorney, Courtney Coyle. I don't know why the Creator ever put her in my life. She certainly doesn't deserve to have me as a burden, but she's been my right arm and my blessing, and I have to always acknowledge Courtney and say thank you. We drove up today, and I could tell when we were in an area that was drought-stricken, or whatever that English word is. But we got into this valley and the mountain range. I know that has to have legends behind it. I know that we entered a spiritual area. I could feel the water. I did not know that the community of Los Angeles is coming up here and buying your food. How tacky is that? But the generations of stealing your water is disgraceful. Water is one of the most sacred elements that we have, and I could sense that when we came up here. So in spite of all the hideous that goes on, always remember your sacred environment. Always go there and contemplate what it is you want to be able to do for your community, for your children, and for the future. And again, I applaud you and thank you. And Christina, thank you for letting me have a few words here. Appreciate it. Oh, one more thing. Matikwa, that means Earth Warrior. I named her Kwa too because she's my second one. If anybody would like to say hello to her, she needs to be socialized, so she's awfully friendly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lucas. And Councilmember Lucas has actually been the most active of our council members. And I won't say her age in comparison to the rest of the council members, but it's a very impressive feat that she's been making it all over the state. So thank you, Councilmember. And check out our social media if you want some photos of her homelands too. We just recently visited. Would you like to do a closing prayer?